I've seen enough of what I've seen, and that is the backlash or the so-called retorts or the rebuttals to the conversation that I say that former President Barack Obama had to a group of black guys. There are the rebuttals and the so-called outrage that how dare Obama tell people who they need to vote for? How dare Obama browbeat people into supporting someone? How dare he do that? And that based on the rebuttals of these people, we have agency of choice. We have agency to think outside the box. We think for ourselves. We are free thinkers, and we're not going along with the same old BS. We're not going along with the same old bullshit, and we don't care about your legacy and all. Fine. But what I saw is not what they saw. And I am nobody's yes man. I promise you, I am nobody's yes man. Anybody who's known me over the decades will tell you that I speak my mind as well. And what I have to say is that you're wrong. Y'all are wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong. And what you're and how you've tried to rebut, you have, it's a thin veil of your actual beliefs as you use, and a thinly veiled way of saying that you weren't supporting Kamala Harris anyway. It was just out of convenience that Barack Obama poked and prodded you, and you came out and said what you said. So what it tells me is that the truth hurts. So what am I getting at? If you checked out the 5-minute discourse that Obama had, or towards the group of black guys, he said that based on what he had heard, based on what he understood, and what he had heard out there on the ground, he heard that there was not the same energy and the same turnout as what he's hearing as when he ran for president in 2008 and 2012. He says, and says that this has been more prominent in our community. That's what he said, collectively. And then he says specifically about how he's hearing how more black men are talking of sitting out of this election, not electing not to vote if they're not supporting Kamala Harris opponent Donald Trump. They're electing to sit out. And I would be indignant too. I am indignant of when I hear folks saying that they'd rather sit out than to vote. Hell, I even get indignant when I hear that they actually support Trump. But the fact of the matter is, what was said over those 5 minutes was that he brought up the issue first about folk talking of sitting out. And he said, and then he went on to speak of the person that you're choosing not to vote for, he's saying, he spoke of the person whom some of these people are choosing not to support or vote for, or rather just ignore the process, is someone that they really can identify with. And if they choose to vote for her opponent, they very well are voting against their better interests. And that's what happens a lot in politics. And I'll quickly say, particularly in the 2016 election, how white women vote overwhelmingly for Trump. And at least with a rational mind, they're really voting against their better interests. Now you're hearing in the 2024 election how there is a significant percentage, or a majority, are speaking of voting for Kamala Harris as opposed to Trump, white women that is. But that the numbers that we're hearing is that black support is somewhere in the low 80% right now for Democrat or for Kamala Harris, whereas those numbers have traditionally been in the upper 80s to low to mid 90s. The high being when Obama ran in 2008, but traditionally somewhere in that upper 80 to 90 percentile ranges where typically how blacks vote. And then when you speak of when you speak of a breakdown, typically black men tend to support Republicans more than black women. We're talking traditionally 1 in 8 to 1 in 5 black men, but we're hearing now is more like 1 in 5 black men are likely to vote Republican than Democrat. And this is where I see where a lot of the rebuttals are coming from. Very black men who have been very vocal, who feel that they've been given agency now, they've been given an opportunity, an opening to voice their side of the political discourse. So Obama says this woman is not she does not come of privilege. She does not come of privilege. She was raised. You can make the argument raised in the hood, at least part of her childhood. She was not a child of privilege. But then you've got some detractors are saying that she was when she was not. She worked her way up she worked her way up the criminal justice system as a prosecutor, working in the district attorney office as a DA assistant, and then as a district attorney for San Francisco. Then she was elected as Attorney General of California. Then she ran for U.S. Senator and was elected U.S. Senator. And then she was tapped to be the nominee for Vice President, and she is the current sitting Vice President. If you speak of qualification, this woman is more than qualified to run for president. Contrary to what her critics say. Contrary to what her critics say. How many candidates can say that? Over history, how many candidates can say that they have built that type of a resume? The discourse that Obama had with these guys, 3 things come to mind. The issue of accountability, truth, and support. And what happens is that when there's the type of rebuttal that I'm seeing, that got under some people's skin. The truth hurts. I know, as having been a newspaper reporter, when I wrote something that really got under people's skin, I got the largest backlash from that. And that backlash went on for days, if not weeks. This I know. And so what I mean by accountability, what I kept hearing from these guys was how they're free thinkers. They're grown-ass men. What says that they can't think outside of the box? What says that they can't choose who they want to vote? What says that they have to be browbeat into supporting someone or voting for someone? Now, I get that argument because I've spoken out against pastors trying to guilt trip people into voting for somebody against their better interests. I've been in situations like that. I think back to 1992, where a pastor whose church I attended back in Richmond, Virginia, he condoned his assistant pastor telling people those who voted for Bill Clinton had sinned. In fact, I was under another pastor who said the same thing. Black pastor, in fact. And so when Obama ran for president, I was telling people, don't let pastor guilt trip you into not voting for Obama. And I think this is kind of the converse argument. The difference, however, is that we're talking about two different times, two different eras, and we're talking a different set of candidates. We're talking about one candidate who has spent an entire professional career facing accountability and has embraced accountability. We're talking about one candidate who has advocated the truth because that is paramount to that has been paramount to their career. We're talking about one candidate who has spoken in support of the people. One candidate who has spoken in support of the people. Everyone. Everyone. Not just our own community, but everyone. But yes, with an eye towards her own community, our community as well. Then you have another candidate, you have the other candidate who has done everything he can to run away from accountability and not be accountable for anything, and has said on the record that he was not accountable for anything. He takes no responsibility. In fact, so much as the Supreme Court has pretty much set it up to where he would have no accountability for what he would do if he's elected again. Then there's truth. You have a candidate who has run away from the truth, has hated the truth, has despised the truth, and has threatened retribution against people who have spoken the truth against him. These are in his own words. This is not just me talking rumor. These are in his own words. And then there's support. What support has this candidate ever made to the black community? What? When? 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 There are no policies out there that are directed towards the black community. There's never been any policies articulated. But yet there is a document that speaks of a platform that would do more harm to the black community than ever before, even during the time of Jim Crow, Project 2025. These are facts. These are facts. But what gets me is when folks speak of then their faith, their beliefs, how they make their decisions based on their faith, their beliefs, their fidelity to Christianity. If they really check things out, they will find that there's one candidate who is public in her faith, and you can make a very good argument, has shown that she is a person of faith. And then you have the other candidate whose actions, whose life lived has been the antithesis of Christ. Never beholding the truth, a pathological liar, sowing fear, hatred, doubt, confusion. It speaks of God as not an author of confusion, but of love. These are factual things that I'm speaking of. I don't hear Kamala Harris sowing doubt, fear, hatred, bigotry, a disdain for men. But when it speaks of the Antichrist, he has a disdain for women. Check it out. I've heard someone said, I even listened to someone spoke of spirit of Jezebel. The spirit of Jezebel was not about what this person was talking about. Everybody talk of Jezebel. Jezebel was someone who, because of a disdain for truth and accountability, had told the prophets, had killed the prophets of God, who spoke out in truth and demanded accountability of Jezebel. If you remember, the story was that, hey, after Elijah's victory against the prophets of Baal, when they said, hey, we'll see who's God, who served God or not. If you remember the story, said, put this wood here, pour water on it, pour water on it, pour water on it, and call on your God, and lick all and call down fire from the sky. The prophets of Baal did everything they could. Cut their arms, danced, sang, yelled, pleaded, and everything. And then Elijah said, okay, y'all done? All right, now pour some water on that. Pour some more water on that wood. Pour some more water on that wood. Now, God, you do it. Consume that wood like it was nothing. And then he said, kill him. And after that victory, word got to Elijah about Jezebel says, I'm going to kill you. And then that's when he took off running. He went off in the cave, and God appeared to him, not in the earth, not in the wind or in the fire, but in a still small voice, and said, get up, eat this food and go back. In other words, he strengthened Elijah for the mission at hand to confront Jezebel with truth and accountability, and that prevailed. The spirit of Jezebel is not upon Kamala Harris, it's upon Donald Trump. But you need to look that up for yourself. You need to look that up for yourself. But then again, you need to listen to what Obama had to say in its entirety before you react off of the headlines. Again, this is about accountability, truth, and actual support. Obama was right about, but I'm not going to go into what Obama said about women in the men's lives. But if you're really thinking clearly, if you really see things for what they are, you would look a level deeper, and you'll see the same thing that I saw. And so that's all I have to share. I'm known as the Good Geezer. I'm in Wood Lane.